Welcome to RECO12. My name is Justin, and I am a child of an all-powerful, all-loving God and a recovering addict, and am blessed to be the host of this meeting and podcast. RECO12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addiction of all kinds, and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. We come together from all places, faiths, and backgrounds to gain tools and hope from others who are walking this same path. Speakers from our past meetings have represented so many fellowships, addictions, and afflictions, and we look forward to continuing to add to the diversity of speakers and backgrounds. Today's speaker for the 170th meeting is Young L, who will be speaking on his experience, strength, and hope in regards to the concept of we have entered the world of the Spirit. We will get to his talk and Q&A afterwards here in just a minute. First, for a little bit of business. The RECO12 family of recovery resources continues to grow and have more and more opportunities and resources for the addict and the loved ones of those addicted. RECO12 Shares is one super exciting project that allows anyone at any time to record a solution-based 12-step share and also listen to others experience strength and hope anytime, anywhere in podcast format on your phone or wherever you listen to podcasts. Another quickly approaching project is a big book roundtable discussion where we will be swimming through the first 164 pages of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with a few recovered individuals who are past speakers in RECO12 and who really try to know and live the big book. We will also be doing another amazing project on real-life recovery information and solutions as found in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous in regards to real-world recovery and life problems, starting also in July. And if that's not enough, another really cool expansion of RECO12 speaker meetings is on the near horizon too. Your donations and subscriptions are making this all possible, as there are costs to build and maintain all of them. On that note, RECO12 is a self-supporting service, and we appreciate your help in keeping us working our Step 12 in this manner. We gratefully accept contributions through PayPal and Venmo through the links that I'll put in the chat and in the show notes. We also offer a monthly subscription program called RECO12 Spearheads. To join in and help support these cool projects, please consider donating at www.reco12.com/support, or click on the links in the chat of the live meeting that I'll put in here in a minute, or the show notes of the podcast. We look forward each week to receiving from the light reflected from our speakers. That light inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. Now I'll introduce today's guest speaker, Young L. Here's a little bit about Young. Young found the 12-step rooms in 2010 after losing everything due to his daily heroin, crack, and alcohol addiction. He didn't take any of the 12 steps and spent the next 8 years in and out of detox units and treatment centers. He was separated from all mind-altering substances Christmas Eve 2018, and since that moment has thrown himself into a spiritual life of helping others. Take it away, Young. The floor is yours.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Justin. My name's Young. I'm a very grateful recovered drug addict and alcoholic. It's great to be here. I'm so grateful to be alive today. I was pondering about the subject, entering into the world of the Spirit, and I thought how far removed that phrase was when I rolled into the 12-step rooms. I'm a member of Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, and all I wanted to do was stop drinking and stop using and be able to not keep on relapsing. I was to not know at that moment that this 12-step program is beyond anything I could have imagined. Was when Justin said I'd been in the rooms for many years and I didn't even know it was a spiritual program. I seemed to just think I could put down alcohol or drugs and suddenly I would be different and suddenly I would be better. But as I found out very painfully, that's not the case. I take alcohol and drugs out of me and I'm not suddenly better, I'm suddenly worse. I seem to delve more into the lower side of existence, because to get into the sunlight of the Spirit, enter the world of the sunlight, I needed to realize how deeply far I was in the lower side of existence, in that lower power. I look at it like that. I know there's a higher power. I know there's a God today, and there's opposites in the world. So this is my opinion. If there's a higher power, there's a lower one. And like Bill Wilson said, he certainly had me. Boss universal. The devil was my master. Alcohol, drugs were my master. I love this bit here. The subject that I picked. I could speak about it all day long. We've entered the world of the Spirit. What does that even mean? Well, as I started launching myself into these 12 steps, something started to happen to me, particularly between steps 4 and 9. And I've wrote on my book here, steps 4 and 9 are done to unplug me from and expose my ego, which is my disease, so I can enter the world of the spirit. And then after that, I can continue to strengthen and deepen my relationship with this power that I'll call God, with this power that I didn't even know I needed. I was still relying on my self-sufficiency, that self-sufficiency that had always taken me to the gutter. It had always taken me to hell, but I was still going to rely on that. It was only when I could see so painfully that I couldn't do anything about this on my own power that I was ready to take direction from a guy. Thank goodness I met some beautiful people in the rooms, in the 12-step rooms, that held out their hands and said, you don't have to ever be in hell. I can show you the way out. But not only that, I can show you how you never have to go in there ever again. I can direct you to a place which, if you put in some action each day, will be a life you can't even imagine. And that's been true. That's been true. I couldn't even imagine this place. And what does it mean? What does it even mean to enter the world of the spirit? And this is just my interpretation. I mean, we might have different interpretations. We all feel this stuff differently. This is like language of the heart. This isn't a textbook exercise where I do the 12 steps and I tick a box and I have a certificate. This is like, living and flowing energy into me. So for me, entering the spirit world means that I'm living in the moment. I'm living in the moment. I'm no longer arguing with reality. I'm no longer wanting to be something different than what I am. I'm no longer wanting you to be different than you have the power to be, just so I can be comfortable. Living in this place, plugged into the spirit. It's a place where I have conscious contact. I can feel this power, and I'm able to take direction or have faith with that direction, even if it's one that I'm confused by. It's like this sixth sense. I think about it like this. When I was a child and I used to steal a lot. When I was, even before the alcohol or drugs, I always felt a sense of dis-ease with life. I needed to do something to take myself out of me. Whenever I did things that I knew were bad, like it says in the book, I had moral and philosophical convictions. I knew right from wrong. And it was like I had this inner and outer conflict. Some voice inside me was telling me to do it. Do it, do it. Another voice was saying, no, don't do it, don't do it. Now I see it like this. When I'm in the world of the spirit, I'm able to follow the right direction. Always. Am I in the world of the spirit all the time? Of course not. I don't even think the Dalai Lama is. I fall in and out of it. I fall in and out of it. But I know this. When I'm not in it, I usually feel pain. I usually feel emotional pain. I don't feel quite right. I don't feel quite right. Because when it says in the big book, until we're able to put our old ideas aside, the result is nil. I always picture it like this old deer that I've been fed since day one, since I can remember having consciousness and going to school and watching those shiny adverts when I'm a child and thinking, as long as I get that toy, it looks so attractive, I'll be happy. And what's it drummed into me since I'm a child? As long as you work hard, as long as you study hard, you'll get the good job. Why do we do that? Because then you'll get the stuff. Why? Because that's where happiness lies. That's nirvana. I have to put those old ideas aside. What I know today, I find it troubling in the material world. That's where my pain is. But in the spiritual world, I don't find any trouble there at all. I find joy, and I find peace, and I find serenity. And I was thinking about that bit in the big book where it says something like, and I'm paraphrasing, it's in the chapter We Agnostics, where everyone has looked up into the sky and looked at the stars and thought, who then made all of this? But it was fleeting and soon lost. I believe at that moment when I'm staring up the sky, I've entered the world of the spirit. I've just dipped my toe in, but then the material world just pulls me back in and I'm confused again. And for me, because I find it so spiky, that world, I use drugs or alcohol to navigate through, to take away the spikiness, to take away the pain. And it doesn't have to be like that. I've learned through this program to be able to accept what is, and I've never been able to accept what is before. I was always fighting to be something different, fighting to achieve. And there's nothing wrong with achieving. But if I need to do that to give me that sense of ease and comfort, I always seem to be disappointed. But that, launching into a spiritual life was just so far removed. Like I've already said, when I rolled through these doors, looking like I'd just been dug up. I wasn't eating for days. I had rags on. I'd lost everything. And before that, I was a successful DJ. I'd fly around the world. I had all material things, but I never had a sense of ease and comfort. I always had, even when I had money, I used to always feel financially insecure. I was always full of fear. I was always, that selfish, self-centered, like it says in the book, driven by 100 forms of fear. When we enter the world of the spirit, I'm not driven by 100 forms of fear, because I have faith, because I know whatever's going to happen, good or, well, it's not good or bad. It just is. It's just going to happen. I was having a chat with a sponsee the other day, and he was saying, he's very new in, he was saying, so you're telling me I turn towards God and I take directions. Well, does that just mean I just sit on my backside and wait for everything to happen? And I said, of course not. I put in action in life, but then I understand and I accept that the outcome is out of my hands today. And in the same way, in More About Alcoholism, where it says we truly concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. When I truly concede to my innermost self that God is my director, I am just letting myself flow down the river of life, flow down the current. I'm not frantically going upstream saying, oh, that looks a bit easier there, or this looks a better direction. No, I'm just letting myself go with it. And in that step-free prayer, when I'm asking God to rebuild me, I'm saying, God, do with me as you will. It uses the word wilt, doesn't it? I love a bit of wilting. Do with me as you will. I am saying, whatever, God. If you want me on the street, okay. I'm not going to resist that. I don't know where that might go. And that's entering the world of the spirit, having absolute trust and absolute faith. And I must say, when I came into the 12-step rooms this time around, because like Justin said, I'd been in the rooms for years and years, not working one 12-step, absolute insanity. If anyone here today is in the 12-step rooms and not taking the 12 steps, how do you think you're going to go through this transformation that is necessary to become well? How's it been working for you so far? The doctor says, doesn't he, in the doctor's opinion, those who can't go through a complete psychic change, there is very little hope of their recovery. But he goes on to say, those who do go through a psychic change, he doesn't say it in these words, but the problem's removed and their eyes become open. When we talk about, that's what I was going to say. When I came into these rooms, I thought I was an atheist. I thought I was an agnostic. I've never had any faith in my life. I've never had God. And those words made me bristle with antagonism. And I didn't know why. And my sponsor, he posed a few questions for me. And I looked back and I could see, okay, it's just my prejudice. I have no experience of it. He said this to me. He said, Young. He said two things. He said, if I was to say to you, would you like a cup of coffee? And you've never tried coffee in your life. And I say, no, I hate coffee. I don't want to try it. What am I basing my experience on? Like it says in the book, I'd never give a spiritual side of life a fair hearing, but yet I'm making a judgment on something I know nothing about. And another thing he said to me, which really helped me, he said, okay, you're sticking to the idea, Young, there is no God. And I said, yes. He said, okay, all those billions of people since day one who've been praying to one God or another, who've had faith, who've had miracles in their lives, who've been displaying a degree of stability, happiness, and usefulness, they're all wrong. But you, in the tiny amount of time you've been in this world, who's ended up in psychiatric units, detoxes, hospitals, and you look like you're going to die and you hate yourself and you can't seem to navigate through life, you're right and they're all wrong. And when he posed it to me like that, I was, oh my goodness, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. It helped me so much. And like it said, all I needed was willingness and open-mindedness. That was enough to make the start. That was enough to get on the path that's been dug out through years and years, and people have shined lights on it. I was just on the wrong path. But that's all I needed. And thank goodness, because that's all I had. And I tell you what also helped me. Those guys in the 12-step rooms, there was this light on in their eyes. I could see, I could feel something in them that I couldn't understand, but I wanted desperately what they had. And I said, how do I get it? And they said, we can show you. Thank God for those guys. Thank God for those guys. And if there's any newcomers in this meeting today, that's all you have to do. And I know today, it's through my brokenness that I can enter the world of the Spirit. It's through my brokenness that I can let in the light. It was through my brokenness that I could get on this different path. You know, I can't believe what's happened to me. I can't believe my soul has changed. And when I was confused by the word spiritual awakening or psychic change, my sponsor just put it very simply. And he said, young, what will happen if you launch yourself with enthusiasm into this 12-step program? And when I say launch, I mean launch. I mean no half measures, no middle of the road program, taking direction. He said, what will happen? You will go through a change in your attitude, in your behavior, and your reaction to life will change. And that's what's happened. I am not the broken soul that I was when I walked through the doors. I am at ease with myself today. I'm at peace with myself 99% of the time. I'm one of these annoying people. I wake up every day and I get on my knees and I'm thank you for being alive, God. I'm so grateful for this breath. I'm so grateful for this moment. When we talk about entering the spirit world, and I said it's about living in this moment right now is perfect. There's nothing I need to be or become in this moment. When I'm present, when I can feel this power, it's an absolutely beautiful place to be. And the flip of that, for years and years, I would wake up every single day. I would open my eyes to this miracle of life and say, oh God, I've got to get through another day. You know, that's such a painful place to exist. Painful, painful. And when I started going through these 12 steps, when I went through 4 and 5, at the end of step 5, I thought to myself, how have I lived so long being so angry, being so resentful, being so jealous, so judgmental, so intolerant, so impatient? The answer for me was alcohol and heroin and the other drugs that I did. Because I can't exist in the world like that. I couldn't exist like a dry drunk or a dry drug addict. I couldn't. I would pick up very, very quickly. And what I found with this spiritual life, and when I say it, before when people used to talk about a spiritual life, I used to think, oh, it's being a bit of a hippie and da-da-da. To me, how do I know if I'm living a spiritual life? If I'm being kind, if I'm being patient, if I'm being loving, if I'm being tolerant. Have I been fighting anyone today? And I don't mean physically. Have I been unkind? Have I been, shouting at someone or a bit rude? Because like it says in the step 10 promises right at the beginning, it says, we have ceased fighting anything or anyone. Anything or anyone. If I'm going to a coffee shop and I'm in a rush and someone gives me the wrong coffee, if I'm raising my voice in any way or being sarcastic, I haven't ceased fighting. It's the little pebbles in my shoe that I have to look out for today. And why would I be fighting anyone? If I know you're God's children, it's like me fighting God. But like I say, this isn't about perfection. This is about me seeing my flaws. This is about me embracing my flaws. This is about this self-examination with prayer and meditation. Hopefully, God, I can be a little bit of a better person tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow I can help some more people. Because this is another thing you guys have shown me. You've shown me the secret to life. You've shown me the secret to life. I thought life was about me finding happiness. When I was a young kid, I used to get beat very, very badly. I had a very bad childhood, etc., etc. And I used that for years as an excuse about why I was a hopeless junkie and an alcoholic. But my point in saying that, because I was unhappy, I was always desperately trying to find happiness. And it continued throughout my life. And I thought I'd found it in drugs, in alcohol, in women, in gambling. But like food, it only gives me this false happiness, and then it runs out. And then I need more, and I need more. And it doesn't matter if I'm hurting myself or people around me. I just need to repeat this because I need to get out of myself. But what you guys have shown me, the secret to life is being useful. Wow, that blew my mind. Being useful. The more I turn my attention to you guys, happiness just comes as a byproduct. And thank God my sponsor was one of these guys. He said at the beginning of this process, the 12-step process, he said, Young, I'm not taking a sponsee through the work, I'm taking a future sponsor. He said, the reason I'm guiding you through this beautiful big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, so you have a psychic change, a spiritual awakening, you get God or good or peace or love or light into your life. I'll teach you certain practices so you can, nurture this relationship on a daily basis. And then you pass this stuff on. This is not optional. That's what he said to me. And I guess it is optional if you don't want the gold. If you don't want to enter the world of the spirit, it's optional. But why wouldn't you want to do that? Why? He also said, would you want your recovery to be, or do you want to be rocketed into this fourth dimension of existence? It's a no-brainer. And I see in the rooms how painful middle of the road program looks, and it doesn't have to be like that. We all have the same set of spiritual tools laid at our feet. Are we all picking them up? Are we all doing 12-step work? Are we all out there holding out the hand that someone held it out to me? Or am I just going to be a taker? So thanks for that. And relating to that, he also said, Young, do you want to be on your hands and knees picking crumbs off the floor, or do you want to be feasting at the table? Meaning, do you want to enter this world of the spirit, or do you want to still be in this old world where you're angry and resentful and you're hanging on for dear life, just trying not to drink or use one day at a time? Which do you want? We've got A or B in this program, haven't we? A, I carry on the way I'm going, trying on my own thinking, on my own plans, on my own willpower to try and navigate through the world as a clean and sober individual, or I accept a spiritual solution. A spiritual solution which I don't know where it might go, because there's no end to this growth. It says, doesn't it, in the step 11 bit, we continued, in the step 10, we continue to take in step 11, it talks about prayer, and it says better men than us are using it constantly. So over the time I've been in my prayer life and my meditation life, it expands. I keep on developing it. I keep on reaching out for teachers. That's one of the beautiful things about the Zoom platform. I have teachers all over the world now, guys that I've seen, and whenever I see someone on fire, I am reaching out to them because I want to learn about their spiritual practice so I can grow, and also so I can be a more effective messenger, because I have purpose today, which I'd never had before. I have direction. I don't have to struggle with life. I don't struggle with life. And I always used to struggle with life. There's a lovely bit that's just come to mind from Bill's story. I hope I'm okay for time, Justin. It's from page 12. And I love this. It's where Ebby says to Bill, why don't you choose your own conception of God? That statement hit me hard. It melted the icy intellectual mountain in whose shadow I'd lived and shivered many years. I stood in the sunlight at last. I love that. It's so powerful. It was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required to make a beginning. I saw that growth could start on from that point. Upon a foundation of complete willingness, I might build what I saw in my friend. Would I have it? Of course I would. Why wouldn't I want this? I'm broken. I'm a broken soul, and I see these guys that have something about them. They're telling me stories, and it sounds like they used to be like me, but now they're nothing like me. And that's so attractive, so attractive. So just jumping back to the bit in step 10 that I picked the topic from, if I can find it. The step 10 promises in the book are my favorite promises. I used to think there was only one set of promises in the book, the step 9 promises, because often in meetings people say, let's read the promises. And that's what I thought. And then someone said, no, Young, this book is full of promises. And they taught me to read it. They said, right, let's look for the directions, the warnings, the prayers, the promises, turn statements into questions, make it personal to you. And that's how I was taught to read this book. But I was also taught that any fool can learn a book and quote it. But this is about applying it in my everyday life. Have I been showing up today? How would my friends, what would they say about me? I know today that I'm a good person. I know today that I'm a man of integrity. I know that I do what I say. When I talk about this complete psychic change and entering the world of the spirit, you know, what the person I've just talked about, I didn't look anything like that for decades. I didn't look like that for anything for decades. So this program is about a complete transformation, so we can enter this world of peace and comfort and ease. I'm just going to read this a little bit. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue. There's the word there. Continue means we never stop to take personal inventory and continue to set any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously, I love that word, commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. Here we go. We have entered the world of the spirit. The world of the spirit. The world of the spirit is a place where I know God's will. And like I say, it flows in and out for me. But I try and keep things very, very simple. When I'm being selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, fearful, jealous, etc. When I'm being those things, I'm in my self-will and I'm usually in pain. When I'm being kind, patient, loving, tolerant, I'm in God's will and I'm in no pain. Not only am I in no pain, but I feel a sense of ease. I feel a sense of joy. And in the same way that I learned this illness was progressive, it should have been obvious to me years ago, but I learned that when someone guided me through the book. So is my recovery. And I must say to anyone new or anyone, it gets better and better as the months, as the years go on, it gets better and better. I remember when I came in, some guys who'd been around years, you know, those sort of grumpy old dudes who do you know what? I was this enthusiastic from day one this time. And they used to say, you're just on a pink fluffy cloud. Well, I'm still on it. I'm still on it. Just because that's your experience, maybe it's not going to be mine. And I could use those as an example, what I didn't want from a recovery. I could see the guys that had something I wanted. I could see the guys that had entered this world of the spirit. They were just on different footing, like it says in the big book. And it says also, going on from it gives those instructions in the step 10 practice. It says, love and tolerance of others is our code. There we go. Love and tolerance of others, even people that are challenging, even people that I want to be different. I have to show love and tolerance, but I have to practice that. It doesn't come naturally to someone like me. But the more I practice it, the more God seems to come in and kind of make me a channel. Make me a channel. He, she, it seems, I seem to become more loving and tolerant, and I find it easier to be tolerant of people that are challenging. And I work in a 12-step treatment center. So every day I'm faced with guys who are like me, very unwell. And I have to show a lot of love and tolerance. And that's not always easy. So I'm given these gifts every day, but I can see them as gifts today. That's another thing, living in the world of the spirit. I can see the gifts that are given to me. Even if at the time, for my first thought is, oh my goodness, da, da, da. After a bit of reflection, I can see their gifts because I have a new set of eyes. I have a new set of eyes. What once used to be a glass that was half full, oh my God, I've only got half left, is now, wow, I've still got half left. Complete transformation. and it continues and it continues and it continues. I think I'm going to end it on the step 10 promises, if that's all right, Justin. I love these promises. At my home group, these are the promises we read out. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone. That's so important. That's so important. Even alcohol or drugs or food or gambling, whatever your thing might be. For by this time, sanity will have returned. When I'm in the world of the spirit, sanity in all areas of my life, not just with the drugs and alcohol, in all areas. Sanity in any situation when I'm in the world of the spirit. We'll seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally. And we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude towards liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We live in the ages of miracles. How lucky are we? How lucky are we? Carl Jung, when he was talking about, a spiritual awakening or a psychic change, he said these things are phenomena. Well, they're not now, because they're happening all the time as the result of the 12 steps. So we know why people are getting them. One of the wonderful things about this program, people of many different spiritual and religious practices, they're all trying to get enlightenment or a spiritual awakening. And many of them spend thousands of pounds or years and years trying to get to this place that we get to as the result of the 12 steps, and then carrying on this practice by helping others. How beautiful is that? The age of miracles, the age of miracles. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we're being placed in a position of neutrality. That's living in the world of the spirit to me, a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. Now, I used to think those two, cocky and afraid, were opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're both the same. Because if I'm being cocky, I'm full of fear. And I believe it's in the middle of those two where humility lies, where I need to try and exist, where God exists, where the world of the spirit exists. That's just my thoughts on that. This is our experience. This is how we react, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. So I like the gym example. If I want to keep in fit physical condition, I need to go down the gym on a regular basis. And so it is with a fit spiritual condition, through deep prayer, meditation, helping others, going to meetings, passing a message. That's how I keep in a fit spiritual condition today. And I do it because I love it. And I do it because the more I do it, the more my eyes seem to open. And I don't want to go to sleep, because I see many guys have an awakening, but then go to sleep. And it doesn't have to be like that for anyone. I hope I've helped someone today with my share. Justin, thank you so much for asking me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Young. I love that. And I've got I took a lot of notes for questions that I have, and I want to remind our live audience, if you have questions for Young, please type them in the Q&A link at the bottom of your Zoom window. Looks like two speech bubbles over the top of each other. We'll get to those as we go along. The first thing that I want to address here, Young, is, you quoted from page 30, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics, that we were addicts. And that is always a very pivotal sentence and phrase in my recovery. But I love how you turned that and you said, I had to concede to my innermost self that that God is my director. And that there's a shift there. If you wouldn't mind, can you dig in that just a little bit more and tell us a little bit more about your perception of that?
Yes. So it's almost like I stopped fighting with myself when I fully conceded. In the same way, before I fully concede to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic or a drug addict, I still think I've got the power of some sort, of some say over whether I pick up a drug or a drink. When I've conceded to my innermost self that God is my director, I am just absolutely in acceptance of the outcome of anything. Yeah, I'll give you an example. I had a sponsor of mine phone me up the other day. He's selling a house, and the buyer, something's happening and it's not going to plan. and he's really stressed out by it, and it's affecting his work life, his family life, and he hasn't fully conceded to his innermost self that God's the director. Maybe that house is not meant to be sold for whatever reason, and God wants him on a different path. But because he hasn't fully conceded, he seems to be in a lot of emotional pain.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful, beautiful example. And thank you for digging in there. That the whole concept of abandoning self to God takes a new meaning to me now when I fully concede that God is my director. There's more depth to it in my own mind and my own heart. Thank you for helping reveal that. Got another question for you. You mentioned that well, let me jump over here. You talked a little bit about your childhood. You said, "Hey, I got beat up all the time as a child. I got bullied around, and I had a miserable childhood." What did your steps 4, 5, 8, 9 look like in regards to that, and how did you come to peace with that through that process?
Yes, good question. So when I said I got beat, I used to get tortured, like, really, really bad, really badly. Now, my mother is an alcoholic. She chucked me out of home when I was 16, and I've never lived at home since then. So I had these deep traumatic wounds around that, and how I dealt with that, and I totally have today. When I went through my 4 and 5, and I had so much, because I see the resentments I was holding, like, like a snake bite. It's not the bite that kills you, it's the poison. And it was like this poison that was flowing throughout affecting so many areas of my life without me knowing. And when I went through, my sponsor said, "You understand about alcoholism, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "This is your mum's alcoholism. It's not her. It's her illness. It's her illness." And it just those simple words, I was able. How can I not have empathy for someone? She was in a lot of pain like I was. She was doing her best with 4 kids, being an active alcoholic, and that's, I suddenly, I don't know, Justin. It's something just, it was like a weight fell from my shoulders. And he said, and this was a difficult one at the time, and it's taken me a while to make the amends. Actually, I have a while. He said, "You've abandoned your mum." I said, "How dare you? What do you mean? She abandoned me?" "No, young. When you were in your madness, you were in your madness, but you're sober now. You're living a spiritual life, and you're still not there for her. She's still unwell. And it's in the forgiveness that I get the peace, that I got the peace. In the sick man's prayer where it says, 'This is a sick man,' he made me write an arrow next to it and put 'like me.'" It was amazing. It was a great process, that.
I love that. And I actually did that thinking that was my own idea, a sick man like me, because I had a hard time. Hey, this is a sick man. I felt like I was judging that person. I was like, I'm going to put like me because I'm a sick man. But thank you. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad it wasn't my idea, and I'm glad it's out there long before me. Awesome. Have a question that came in from a member of our live audience. This person says, "What should one do when he finds himself getting triggered by media, images, and the like? How do you get back into the sunlight of the spirit with that?"
I'm so glad you read out that question. So I don't have a television. I got rid of my television about 8 years ago. It was one of the best things I did. I often say this when I speak. I have a choice every morning. I can either plug in to my faith or my fear. If I'm starting the day on Facebook, on Instagram, I'm plugging into my fear, because my mind looks at images and thinks, "Oh my God, everyone's better than me. Everyone's got a better life and is more happy and more successful and better looking." And so it plugs into my fear. Or if I'm reading I don't read newspapers anymore. It doesn't feed my soul. I always think, anything I'm consuming, does this feed my soul or feed my fear? If it feeds my fear, I take it out of my life. So that's the answer to that question. I don't get into the media anymore. And since someone said to me, you don't know what's going on though. I know what's going on in my world.
Yeah. Oh, love that. And you mentioned towards the end of your share that we're in an A or B fellowship here. A, how things are. If I want to keep my television or the media or whatever it is that causes me to go into distress, I'm choosing I'm choosing the way things are rather than B, a spiritual way of life. Those are the great examples. Thanks for sharing that. So how do you, Young, you mentioned, when you first came in, you thought, if I just get off the drugs and alcohol, I'll be good. And yet when I lose those things that I've been using to numb out, I get less well. Tell us a little bit about that process of becoming well after losing the drug of choice and how that looks.
Becoming well after taking the 12 steps. So yeah, like you said, I've spent over 2.5 years of my life in treatment centers and psychiatric units and detoxes. And what's the main problem of the alcoholic, the drug addict? It centers in my mind. So my mind always tells me I'm going to be okay. This time it will be different. Even though 100 experiences have shown me it's never different. I look at this illness like the Terminator, the film, The Terminator. It's always chasing me, unrecovered, unwell. I might have a little gap. I might be able to hide for a little bit, but it always catches up with me. It's never going to stop. It's never suddenly going to say, okay, I've had enough of you now. I'm going to leave you alone. So this time around, I'd lost everything in life. About the third time around, I was living in a tiny flat. I had no possessions. I was lying on a sofa day after day for about 1 year, just seeing dealers and people in the liquor store and people I was doing crime and blah, blah, blah. But that was the gift. That was the gift. I can see today. It didn't feel like, because every single day I used to wake up wanting to kill myself. That's why I'm so grateful today, because I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. I know I've got a purpose today. And that was the beginning. That was when I got a sponsor. Finally, I could surrender. Finally, I knew, because I believe step one, if I truly understand step one, and I don't want to use and drink again, I should be, it should be like a firework up my backside. Because if I truly understand step one, I know I'm going to drink or use again, no matter what I seem to do. So that's what it felt like. And my sponsor said, Young, these steps are meant to be gone through quickly, but then a lifetime to practice. And it urges me throughout the book, this sense of urgency. It says, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now, ! It doesn't say, take your time finding God. It's saying, may you find him now. Why do I need to find him now? Because lack of power is your problem, and you might pick up again and you might die. And then after step 3, it says, next we launched. I love that word. I always think about a space shuttle. I'm launching into this course of action to try and get me into the sunlight of the spirit. And how it looked for me, Justin. And I remember being really confused at step 3. I said, how do I turn towards God? I haven't even got God. How do I do that? And my sponsor said, don't worry. You're just making a decision to launch yourself into the steps. And as you do, then you'll know how to turn towards God. And that was my experience. I know it's different for some people, but that was my experience. When I went through 4 and 5, I know today that was my first spiritual awakening. I know it was very subtle. It wasn't like a big bright light. It was just something shifted in me. I haven't thought about drinking or using since that moment. I haven't thought about it since that moment. That's an absolute miracle for someone like me. I used drugs and alcohol from the age of 11 to 43. Long time. 20 of those years, heroin, crack cocaine, daily using. So I was really in the lower side of existence. And then, 6 and 7, like I say, suddenly it's almost like a spotlight is in my eyes, and I can just see the truth about me and about how I roll, about, how angry and impatient and all these things, and they become very objectionable to me. And then when I can see that, I'm ready to let some more sunlight in. And then when I did my amends process, that was a beautiful process. And like I said, the one with my mother took a bit longer because I just wasn't ready. I just couldn't seem to let go of that last bit. It's a funny one because I seemed to lose the resentment, but I still couldn't seem to make the amends. So maybe I didn't lose, I don't know. But I did it as, when God allowed me to be ready, I guess. nothing happens in this world by mistake. It was at the exact right timing that it just came to me. It was on Mother's Day one day. I was in the shower, and it's almost like God spoke to me and said, how can you not be there for your mother? How can you? I could, feel this. I could feel this. Something was happening, and so it was just this kind of, almost as I was going through the 12 steps, little light bulbs were going on, just little light bulbs. My eyes were opening to a different reality, and then I started delving into the rest, and things really started getting lively for me, so to speak, when I started taking other people through the work. And now I'm 4.5 years in, which I see myself as a baby in this program, but I've always had sponsees from 6 months. I've never not been taking people through the work. I take people through the work from Monday to Friday before my work, and as I do that, something seems to just continue to happen and change. Such a beauty, such a gift.
Oh, beautiful. And I love the dedication, not the dedication, the surrender, the abandoning of self to the program and giving back that which was freely given to you. Thank you for that. And your example in that. You mentioned early in your share that it was shared with you, maybe your sponsor or someone else in the rooms, that said, hey, all it is a few simple steps of action steps each day that combined together bring that peace, that ease that you have, and the recovery and the fruits of it. What does your morning routine typically look like? Do you have a routine that's like set that helps you put yourself in God's presence?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I have a really, because if we think about the word spiritual, within the word spiritual, we've got the word ritual. I do these rituals like clockwork, and I have done since I've come in, and they've just developed. So my morning rituals, I wake up at 4 a.m. because it says we alcoholics and addicts are undisciplined. So I discipline myself, and I must say, I don't want to try and be on some spiritual high top. If I could sleep in a bit later, I would, but something wakes me up and I'm awake, so I'll make use of the time. So I wake up, I do my step 11, I start thinking about the 24 hours ahead, I pray, I meditate. That's such an important part of my life today, prayer and meditation. It really, really is. I have my Audio Anonymous group, which you're a member of, Justin. So I post one recording each day on Audio Anonymous. I take quite a lot of calls in the morning. I'll reach out to some newcomers. I'll do a few spiritual readings, and that usually takes about 2 hours. And then I'll eat something, and then I'll do some step work with the guys before work. So that's what I do every single day without fail. And I do it. I love doing it. It doesn't, it's not a chore, this stuff. It's not a chore. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure for me to do those things. It really is.
Do you follow through on that, even like when you're on vacation and everything, and maintain that routine?
Always.
I'm gonna out myself here. I have been very good with my morning routine, and just this last weekend, I took a vacation for 2 days, and it spiraled out of control really quick. I thought, I'm going to sleep in a little bit the next 2 days. I'm going to stay up a little bit later than I typically do the next 2 days. And it just really spiraled out of control into where the serenity was gone really quick. And for me now, for today, I'm recognizing no matter what, I need to continue doing this, no matter where I am, no matter what's going on around me, because it works. And when I don't do it, it doesn't work.
I look at it like this, Justin. It's almost like if we were imagining our spiritual life or our recovery like this human-sized ball. And at the beginning, it feels a bit like pushing it uphill at the beginning. I'm really having to dig deep. And then after a while, with the consistency, with the rituals, it levels out and then it's downhill. But if I stop the momentum, then it can be a lot harder to restart it again. I work in a 12-step rehab. All we do is big book in there. And often what happens, guys leave, we lay out the spiritual tools, we give them the suggestions of what to do, sponsor, go through the steps again, etc., etc. Now, many of them, the first week, they do 90% of what's suggested. Second week, 80%, 60, 50, you get what I'm saying. And then they're 5 months, 6 months sober. They're doing maybe 1 meeting a week. They're not praying, meditating, none of these things. And it's now winter and it's raining and they've got a new partner and they're watching Netflix. Oh, I don't need to do this tonight. You know, I'm still sober, I'm still clean, because the main problem centers in my mind and it's telling me I'm kind of okay. So it's the consistency so important in this program.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and it's hard to look at that mirror sometimes. And you know, so many of us, well, we're blind to ourselves. We don't know the truth from the false. We can't tell that. That's why it's so important to have a sponsor, to work with others, to have other people to be able to reflect back some of those things at me. Thank you so much for your shares here. Young, before we start closing up here, do you have any final words of wisdom or anything else that's on your mind that you'd like to share with us?
I don't really have any words of wisdom. I just feel so blessed to have struck gold with this program. This big book, it's like a treasure map with gold inside it, and it keeps kind of getting better as I keep growing. I've recently been taken through the 12 steps once more with a beautiful guy from Toronto, and it's really deepened things within me. And I'm really excited by this stuff, and it should be exciting because I don't know where it might go. When I came into the rooms, I hadn't worked for 5 years. Grown man, I hadn't worked for 5 years, and I thought my life was over because all I'd known was either drug dealing or being in the music industry. I didn't really have any transferable skills in any other area. And I remember my sponsor saying, "Young, you'll be okay as long as you follow this path." And he was absolutely right. I trusted in God, and God's given me everything I could need. There's nothing that I need today. And I'm saying that because if there's anyone here today who's struggling, who's a bit confused, all we have to do is follow this path and develop our faith, and everything will be okay as we continue to do that. And that's it. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you so much, Young. And thank you for being one of those teachers that I've been introduced through this process of recovery here. What a beautiful thing. So grateful for these platforms, Zoom, and everything that's gone along with it. It's really magnified my own recovery and my own connections. Thank you for being one of those connections, Young. Beautiful. All right, let's start closing up here. All right, that was a great RECO12 weekly speaker meeting. If we didn't get to your questions, you in the live audience, or if you have other questions, please consider joining our WhatsApp community by sending an email to RECO12pod@gmail.com. That's RECO12pod@gmail.com. And join in our community and ask those questions, answer others' questions that may come up. If you're inspired and want to share something of your insights from this, from Young's share in a 12-step type share, please go to RECO12 Shares Speak Pipe link that I put in the chat and also in the show notes of the meeting. Record your 3 to 4 minute share there. And if you've not yet rated and reviewed RECO12 in Apple Podcasts, if you listen in Apple Podcasts, please go do so now. It's a great way to help us work our 12th step in sharing this message with others. I invite the audience to come back next week when we'll have a great speaker and a great topic that we're just getting the topic confirmed here, but the speaker is Maureen N. and excited about that. Now let's launch off into the rest of our day with the St. Francis prayer, which Young chose and which I will say for us. All right. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved, for it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. Remember, everybody, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back, everybody. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
I've seen stars fall from above. I've fallen in and out of love. I've been high and I've been low. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. I've seen a boy become a man. He got lost without a plan. He's so far away from home. Now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me, your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone, 'cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. I'm looking for the words to say. You make the world a better place, and I can call that place my home. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me, your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone, 'cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. So let me see just what you need to set you free, so we can be. I saw stars fall from above. I fell in and out of love. I got high and I fell low, but now I know that I just can't do this on my own. No, I just can't do this on my own. I just can't do this on my own.